This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Hods? This is Steven, your host from Fantology Podcast, and we are going to be talking about the first of the books of Babel, Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. Ryan and Josh are both on with me today. Who wants to go first? Ryan, tell everyone hello.
Hello, Fantology and fans of Fantology and those who are new to Fantology. Excited to talk about this exciting book.
This was an exciting book. I liked it. I'm excited to talk about it.
So we'll start with some non-spoilers. We kind of typically do this. I think people tuning in have probably already read the book, but just in case, we will do like 5 to 10 minutes or so. We'll see of no spoiler conversation, just like overview, what the book is, some backstory of the book, since this one's a little interesting. And then we'll, give our like impressions. Did we like it? Did we not? So it's like Josh liked it. Yeah. So that's one spoiled already.
Also, something we do here for Fantology, we did this for our book club on Discord. So it's pretty fun. We get, a fair amount of people to read the book. We discuss it. We go on voice chat once or twice to discuss the book. And so this one was really fun. We're going to be picking another book for our next book club here pretty soon. But if that sounds interesting to you, jump on our Discord. There's a channel called Book Club where we all kind of talk about what book we want to do. And so if you want input for what to do next, then jump on Discord and say hi.
Yeah, if I have my way, we're going to do The Arm of the Sphinx, the book 2 of the series next. We'll see what people want to do. But I think there was a lot of enjoyment for this one.
Yeah.
And then also with Fantology, I think I just kind of stole your thing there, Josh.
No,
but
that's good.
Yeah. Ryan, do you want to tell everyone about our exciting competition that's going on right now?
Sure. Well, as for our YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and we're pretty close. I mean, are we at 970?
Yeah, it's like 979. It's close. It's very reachable.
So we are very close. So we're trying to push ourselves over the top before we finish 2021. And as part of that, we're going to offer a little incentive for new members or new subscribers and old, for those people who are just joining us. If you want to hit the subscribe button, and for those who have already subscribed, if you want to leave a comment on some of our videos, just to let us know that you're watching and something you like or dislike, some constructive criticism, you'll be entered into a competition where we will select a winner just randomly, and you will get an Audible credit for you to enjoy listening to your next favorite fantasy book. Most of us use Audible or listen to audiobooks, and so we love it. We want to pass that on to you guys, pass on some appreciation to you as well.
Heck yeah, well said.
So the only thing I'd add is we can't actually gift the credit. We have to gift the books. So you'll need to DM us on one of our socials and tell us what book you'd like, and then we can gift you the book on Audible. So that's where we're kind of at with
that. For new subscribers and old, you comment on our videos, new videos. So don't just go back to like episode 1 of Fantology and leave comments. That's not allowed. New videos, since we announced the competition in our last episode, every comment that you make, a limit of 1 comment per video, will get you an entry, and then we'll do a raffle once we get over 1,000. We'll probably do it like the end of October or the end of November. We'll kind of see, we'll gauge the participation.
We'll let it run a little bit. We'll let it run until we tell you we're going to stop. So just because you see like we have 1K subscribers, if we haven't like announced it that it's stopping, we'll let it run a little bit over 1K.
So you can have multiple entries, but you can only have 1 entry per video.
Correct.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah,
correct.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, on to Senlin Ascends. So no spoilers for now. Should we start with opinions? Let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah. Well, can I just try pitching it real fast?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So this book is not like a typical epic fantasy book, I'd say. It's more along the lines of, I keep comparing it to Douglas Adams and Neil Gaiman, kind of. and maybe a little bit of Terry Pratchett, although I haven't read many of his books. But it's kind of a setting that's a little bit maybe more familiar to ours. I don't know if I classify it as steampunk, although it does have some steampunk elements in it, but it
Yeah, I would say steampunk.
okay, yeah, but it's not as dark. It's not like as dreary as I would say a lot of steam. I'm not too familiar with steampunk books, so
Is that a hallmark of steampunk being dark? And I just thought steampunk was just like, funny hats and clockwork things and engines.
yeah, maybe. I saw Carnival Row. That's like where my main thing of steampunk.
Okay.
Anyway, but it has really enjoyable. Well, it has very unique characters. I'd say the characters are not just like a typical fantasy book character. It has kind of different takes, and there's a lot of humor in it, and it's pretty well paced, not super long. So that, and these are all my opinions, of course, people might disagree, but that's kind of my pitch. If you want something a little bit more zany or whimsical than like Sanderson is, then this might be a fun thing for you to try out.
Ryan, what would you add?
I think I agree with Josh for the most part. It has a few starker elements, but it does have, I don't know, it's a good mixture of some dark elements and some lighthearted ones. But I think it's enjoyable, and it felt very different from everything else I'd read this year.
Yeah,
in a good way.
The setting is really what first set it apart for me. Like, they're literally climbing the Tower of Babel, right? And it's this kind of crazy setting within the tower. And you'll see when you read the book that there's different settings within the setting in different parts of the tower. The characters are great. The main character is very human, different than your typical hero. I think I saw a thing where Josiah, the author, said that he felt like a lot of heroes were not like real people, where they had flaws, but they were like hero flaws. They weren't like real people flaws. And Senlin, who's the main character, is very human and has like, he's kind of stupid sometimes, and has he seems like, basically like if I was in a fantasy book, this might be how I acted.
Yeah, imagine taking like your quirkiest teacher, not quirkiest. I don't want to say quirkiest. I don't know. Imagine taking a teacher that took themselves very seriously, but still had a sense of humor, and then throw them in the middle of a kind of crazy zany fantasy world. I think that gives you kind of an idea for what you'd expect from it.
What are your comps for this book? My favorite that I've said a few times is a series of unfortunate events. That's a more YA series than this book is. Not that this book is like super adult or dark or anything, but just like the general tone is more adult. Series of unfortunate events, more YA. But just some of like the situations and characters and the humor and the absurdism, whatever that word is, that all kind of reminded me of unfortunate events.
I think a mix between, for me, and I said this with the Douglas Adams and the Neil Gaiman, but maybe a mix between Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Neverwhere. If you've read either of those, I think it's kind of a combination of those.
That's the Neil Gaiman, right?
Yeah, Neverwhere is Neil Gaiman. Hitchhikers is Douglas Adams.
Yeah, I said it was very different from any other book I've read this year, and I'm drawing up a blank, but I'm trying to think of a similar book that I've read recently. So
it's unique. That's a great selling point.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard a lot of people talking about this book and how much they enjoyed it, when you read the premise, this school teacher climbing a tower, it doesn't sound very interesting. Or like, how long does it take to get to the top of a tower, and how am I going to be interested for an entire book? But it really does have some very unique world building aspects to it, and I think that it certainly pays off to invest some time reading it.
He's able to really conjure up some nice imagery. Like in my head, I have really good ability. I'm not trying to brag about my own ability to imagine these things. I mean, the text does a really good job of helping me imagine what these settings look like, and they're very unique settings. They're very zany settings, but I'm able to imagine all these things really well, which really speaks to the quality of the prose and the world building and imagination here.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Okay, should we talk about let's talk about the origins of the book. This is still non-spoilers, but I just thought this is interesting. So he published this book in 2013, self-published, after writing for years. He was a poet for a while, and then he's like, I don't want to do that anymore. So he wrote this book after writing when he was younger, fantasy books when he was younger. And he self-published in 2013 and sold like 250 copies in the first 3 years. So basically nothing. He just wrote it because he wanted to and wasn't necessarily expecting critical success, but he did try to get it out there with, not a lot of success. It's hard to do on social media and at conferences or whatever. But then he entered into Mark Lawrence's, an author that we've covered a little bit, although we are still kind of in the midst of reading his books. He entered into Mark Lawrence's self-published books, or like smaller fantasy books. I guess anyone can enter this competition, although I'm not very familiar with it. He entered this competition. He didn't win, but Mark Lawrence read it just kind of on a whim and loved it, and basically became the champion for Senlin Ascends and really promoted it across Reddit and some different places. Eventually Orbit picked it up several years after, I think in 2016, if I'm correct. Orbit picked it up and signed on and published. And since then, the rest of the series came out. So I just thought that was a very interesting origin story for the series.
Did it get re-edits after? Did the first book get edited again after the competition? I don't expect you to know this.
I do not know.
But I thought, I don't know. This seemed like it was very tightly and well edited, like in terms of the pacing of it and in terms of the prose. It had to have had some top-notch editors there working on it. And I'm shocked that it didn't get more success faster, because it's a really well-written book. I didn't know he was a poet, but that kind of makes sense with
the prose is really good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
the imagery. I guess that goes back to my thing about the imagery. I think that really helps.
I don't know if I quite say it's on like a Patrick Rothfuss level, but it's really, really well done. I'd say it's, I loved it. So the prose specifically.
And I think, I mean, it just, we talk about how difficult it is to be an author nowadays. And this is just another testament to both the fact that there's a lot of different routes to success, and you need to be very persistent, persevere through a lot of hardship. And he had a good book. Obviously, it was just the fact that he didn't have the exposure to actually get the book out there. I mean, and the fact that he got a publisher only came after his book was exposed to the general public and well received. So it's writing is a difficult thing to do, and I'm grateful for all of these authors, for Josiah Bancroft, Mark Lawrence, all these people who sacrifice a lot in order to initially get their book out there.
Nice. And it makes you think, like, how many more Senlin Ascends are there out there that were self-published and are, just have hundreds of people that have read them, but are awesome books. So
if I was one of those 100 people, I'd be like evangelizing the heck out of this, but I'd be on Reddit, Discord, like, can you imagine the amount of karma you'd get if you like introduced Reddit to just that? So real quick, also I wanted to give a quick content warning. There's not any language, I don't think, nothing major at all. There's no real sex in it. There's a little bit of maybe sensuous descriptions here or there. And then finally, there are some kind of shocking moments of violence that are not common enough to make them less shocking, if that makes sense. I can maybe count on a hand or two of like really violent moments, but when there's violence, it's I would say it's graphic and shocking, and so that's kind of the content warning, I'd say.
And there's definitely some darker undertones. Like as you explore more to the tower, you
Yes.
realize that there's a lot of fairly dark stuff that's going on.
There's like some,
but it's not like on page as much.
You know that there's like prostitution rings and being sold into
Uh-huh.
like, you know, like a sex trade type thing. So it's not really lingered on, but it is happening in the setting. Hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler, but kind of, I guess, you know,
No, I think that's good.
trigger warnings. So that's, I don't know. It's not like anything like a Game of Thrones or even like a Mark Lawrence book or anything like that. I'd say I'd be comfortable with like most teenagers reading it. Just that violence is kind of, you know,
Yeah, I mean, for the books that we've covered in fantasy,
pretty tame.
Adult fantasy can get more graphic. I think this is definitely on the tamer side. So I would recommend it to most readers of fantasy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Spoilers.
Okay, should we do before we do spoilers, okay,
Oh.
give us should we just some ratings, just like overall. I mean, we already said a lot of our impressions of the book. Maybe should we attach numbers to it? That's kind of fun.
Top line number?
Yeah, give us an out of 10.
I'm going 8.5.
Ooh. It's very, very high bar.
Yeah, I really liked it. I think I gave it 5 stars on when I finished it on Goodreads, because I was reading on the Kindle and it popped up with an opportunity to give a rating. But I initially would have given a 9 out of 10, but then we talked a little bit, and I think there were some more apparent flaws that I kind of just glossed over because I kind of binge read it. So having talked through the book club, like the first half of the book, there were some flaws that were brought up that I agree with. So it lowered it to an 8.5, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm similar. I would give it an 8 out of 10. I think that the book has a lot of, the premise is just very unique, and that was a lot of the draw for me. The beginning and middle were a little bit of slow, punctuated by periods of like very, very interest when I was very interested in the book and reading it. But it would kind of inevitably slow down again until probably the last third of the book, when it was very quick. And so the pacing was a little bit up and down for me, and sometimes I had to force myself to pick up the book and start reading again. But I'm glad that I read the entire book, and I'm excited to start the next book.
I'll go with you, Ryan. I'll give it also an 8 out of 10. I'll be honest, there are times where doing Phantology kind of takes away my enjoyment for reading sometimes, because I'm like, I got to get through this book so we can do the recordings, we can get to the next one, so we can get an episode out, right? It's just kind of like the nature of the game sometimes. But I did not feel that way for this book. I enjoyed reading it all the way through. And although I did read the last bit of it pretty quickly so we could be ready to record, I enjoyed it the whole time. I thought it was, for a first book, amazing. 10 out of 10 for a first book.
First book, 10 out of 10. Self-published book, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really looking forward to the rest of the series, because I've heard that it continues to get interesting. We have some people on Discord who've read the whole series, who are big fans, who joined Discord so they could talk to us about this and tell us we should read more. So I am trusting them, and I'm trusting what I read from the first book, and I'm expecting big things for the rest of the series.
Nice.
Okay. Spoilers.
All right.
Where do we start?
Yeah, where do we start?
So
start a lot of different places.
Yeah. So it is kind of weird how he just loses his wife, right? Like, that was kind of weird to me. I'm like, is this just supposed to be a chapter thing? Like, is this just kind of the initial, he's going to figure this out in a few chapters, find his wife, and then they're going to go on this adventure together?
You mean how like it starts right at the beginning, and then like you don't realize that it is in fact the impetus for it seems like the entire series?
Yeah. I didn't really know if that was the case or not. So it made the beginning a little bit hard to get into for me. Because I wasn't expecting that to be the main conflict of the book, if not the whole series. Yeah.
Did you read? Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, did you read the, whatever summary they have at the back of the book?
No, I just went right in.
I didn't read it either. I haven't really been reading them, I mean, they kind of spoil like a lot of the
Yeah.
main premise. So I was
Yeah.
I was similar, Josh, where I was like, oh, he just lost his wife, or she walked off, and then I was like, next chapter, you're like, oh, they can't find each other. I didn't realize it was going to be the whole book, and then more that, you know, this is like his journey, you know, trying to find his wife. And so that certainly was a surprise to me.
So you guys would have thought it would be better if it was like a stronger connection to Maria and to Senlin and her relationship, and that, and like, oh no, now she's gone. Now it's a big thing because, you know, we like them together. But the way it was just like, oh, she's gone. We don't really know who she is. We barely even know who Senlin is.
I guess, yeah. Do you have something to say, Ryan?
Well, I don't know if that's intentional, because when you first read the book, when you started, at least when I started it, I thought this was almost like an arranged marriage. Senlin just seemed
I got that,
very,
yeah. I got that vibe too.
He seemed awkward, and the relationship didn't seem very affectionate. I was like, is this like, what's going on here exactly? And then as the story progresses, especially later on, you start learning more about how his courtship with Maria, and you learn a bit more, and that it wasn't in fact an arranged marriage, that, you know, they developed a lot of there's a lot of depth that, you know, from the outside it might kind of look like that, and but Maria came to mean something to Senlin that was not apparent at the beginning. And so I'm not exactly sure. I think that might have been intentional by the author, that from the beginning you don't exactly know the whole story behind the relationship.
I mean,
so yeah,
as you learn about their relationship, it helps you learn about Senlin as a character. And as the book goes on, you know, Senlin is learning about himself and exploring the tower more. You get more bits of backstory. So I can see that strategy of like, okay, now we're also going to parcel out their relationship, so you get a deeper understanding of both. But it did seem a little strange at first.
So I'm going to say, I don't know if I needed more of their relationship before she got lost, but I think I needed more of the fact that this was an actual danger. But it is hard, because that's when he realizes like how much danger the tower is too. So I don't know how it could have been done differently. I'm just saying, like, kind of my initial reaction. I did kind of have an emotional reaction to it, because without going into like a crazy long story, a week or two before I read the book, I kind of lost my kid for a little bit at the park, and it was pretty scary for me. And so I felt kind of the desperation, but I think that should have come through a little bit more quickly. Like, it was like he started looking for her, and then it was like 2 days later, and then that's when he started getting desperate. You know, after like 15 minutes, I was like freaking out. You know, I'm like, you know, just dread, this feeling of dread. And I get that that's not really the same, because one's an adult, one's a 4-year-old. You know, so like the adult can handle themselves more on their own. But I don't know, like,
I mean, he does freak out for a while, and then his rational mind kind of thinks like, well, she's an adult, she'll come back to me. I just need to stay in the same spot. Like, and that's his character. He's very rational and expects the world to be ordered, until he goes through the tower and realizes that in fact none of that is really the case.
I thought it was done well. I'm saying my initial like reaction of not being super brought into the story like right away by that conflict. So that's
Agree. It wasn't until he got to the parlor for me that I was like, okay, this book's pretty cool. Like, there's something cool going on here.
Yeah, it was pretty boring through the basement for sure. You're like, man, this guy sucks. He just got robbed. He just got robbed again. And he's like, you know, just like desperately like, I can't find my wife. Have you seen this person? Like, I mean, and like you said earlier, Stephen, it's like almost the same things we would do if we were in that situation, where you're like just like running around. If I was in a foreign country, like barely spoke the language or whatever, and I got separated from my wife for multiple days, I'd be freaking out. Like, I need to contact the authorities. I need them to help me find her. Like, what happened here? And so, you know, it's not very heroic by Senlin, right? And And then in the parlor, did you guys get Shining vibes at all in the parlor where he and Edith are being chased by this murderous actor?
Yeah.
I've never read or seen it, so no.
But you've seen like the thing of Jack Nicholson like breaking through the door and like sticking his face in.
I've seen that, and I've seen the blood like running down from the elevator.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yep.
yes, right. Like just
Yeah.
a crazed maniac, like murderously chasing you down to take you out. Yeah.
It was a very gripping part of the book and very intense. And
That's
so
where I got Series of Unfortunate Events vibes, where it's like this bizarro setting that doesn't make any sense, but everyone there is going along with it for no apparent reason. Like, and I love that series. I was like part of my childhood. So I think that connection was really what drove home the interest in the book for me.
Yeah.
Real quick, along that same premise, I loved how Senlin saw it as the bastion of culture and refinement and like scientific, just.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
He taught lectures to his class all about the tower. Yeah.
Had the book. I think it would be kind of like if you went to like Paris, and I've never been to Paris, but like maybe it's kind of like if you went to Paris expecting, to see where all this amazing culture originated from and scientific discoveries and all this, and then you went and got like mugged before you saw the Eiffel Tower and like didn't get to go into any of the museums and were somehow arrested and thrown in a cubicle and like I don't know, just that's the vibes I got. Like,
I like that.
Yeah, kind of like the story of Amanda Knox. Is that her name? Yeah, I don't know if she was in Paris, but anyway.
I think I'm not familiar with that story.
The Tower of Babel setting is cool too, obviously, because of the biblical story of the tower. And it seems like here we have basically every culture and different parts of the world that are represented. Everyone's coming here, and it's basically how you'd expect the biblical version to go, where it's just crazy and it goes up until no one can see, and it's totally godless in the end.
That was really cool. Yeah. I like that symbolism. I don't know if it's a little bit on the nose to like actually call it Babel, right? Like, because I don't know how much this is supposed to resemble like being an alternate universe of our own world, or that's kind of all left to be pretty vague. But
I think it's a great decision to call it Babel. It worked for me.
Nice. Okay.
It conjures up this image and setting right away before you even. It's like, oh yeah, it's Tower of Babel.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay. Should we talk about characters? So we talked about Senlin a little bit. Anything else to say about Senlin?
I don't know. This is kind of a combination of maybe something we would talk about later, or even worse to the best. But so Senlin, I mentioned he starts off pretty incompetent, and I was expecting some character growth, because I was like, there's no way that I can read a whole book following this guy if he just stays the same way and is just like hopelessly lost, has no idea what to do. But then I felt like by the end of the book, he was almost like hyper competent. He was just like, planning these elaborate schemes, and they didn't necessarily all go to plan, but he was very confident in himself, and he like could analyze everybody very well. He's like, oh, Adam needs me to be a captain, so I shouldn't express doubt around him. So I should just be confident, and then he'll follow me. And so it was like, he almost like did totally 180. And it was almost like too short of a time for it to be believable. Like when he was in the baths, and Ogier was like, I need you to steal this painting from like the most powerful guy around. And Senlin's a headmaster, and he's instantly like, okay, like I'll do it. Like,
well, he was desperate, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's desperate, but I mean, I would have tried. I would have been like, I'm not gonna be able to steal it. Like, I need to figure something else out. Like, I need to figure some other alternate accommodation with this guy.
I mean, he had no choice, right? He had to do that. his money was running out. He saw what would happen otherwise. He would become a Hod, or he would be
Yeah.
forced to like get out of there and lose Maria. Like he had no options.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there was something else he could have done. I just was, it was a little bit hard for me as a reader to believe that somebody who was like so hopelessly navigating someplace could suddenly pull off like an elaborate heist.
I think that's fair. Like things did, tend to work out for him, albeit in unexpected ways. But really, like if this was really a normal guy going through the tower and he's a headmaster and that was his experience, he's probably going to become a Hod, right? Like he's probably not really going to make it.
Maybe, but I think that we kind of underestimated at the beginning of the book how competent he is, just in life.
Yeah.
Like he was a successful person. You know what I mean? Like
he just had this like way of thinking that was blinding him for a while.
He was naive for the first third of the book.
Yeah. Yes.
He was very naive, but he was when he stopped being naive and saw things for how they were. I think some of both his confidence and competence came back to, and served him well, and desperation. Right. And he loved how are we saying her name?
I'm saying
Maria.
And he like loved her. I would do something incredibly stupid to save my wife. Like,
I guess maybe it's a bit more believable if you think of it as this air of naivete that he casts off, and when he's able to see things more clearly, then he's able to apply himself. I mean, I guess it's a little bit more believable. Still not totally believable, but hey, we're reading fantasy here. You can't. I do think I'm nitpicking a bit here, where at first I'm like, no, he's not competent enough. No, he's too competent.
Yeah.
Do you think the title of the book has a dual meaning of like he's ascending up the tower, but he's also ascending like himself? He's becoming more competent, like you said, Ryan.
Yeah.
Moving on from Senlin, I think my favorite character of the book is Edith.
Okay.
I loved the chapter she was in, and I loved the fact that this was a way for Senlin to see that even good people can become Hods, right? And I loved like just how genuine she was, and I thought it made the book a lot more personable by introducing us to her.
She didn't become a Hod.
Not a Hod. Sorry. What's the name for when they get branded?
Is there a name?
Yeah, it's a shortened word.
Oh yes, there is a name. I promise we read the book, but I'm not gonna remember that.
Yeah, sorry, that was my bad. It was something. Yeah, something. Yeah, why am I forgetting it? Anyway,
let us know. Let us know in the comments what it was.
Yeah. So I really like that. And I really liked her kind of backstory of like, going out there and and taking some more control over her life and finding a new home in the tower by the end of the book.
Mm-hmm. I thought he does a really good job of representing minorities, I would say, especially women, in really like strong, powerful ways. And that was another thing I saw in his like at the end of the Kindle book, there's an interview, and he says he went, like when he was starting to write fantasy, he went back to a bunch of old authors that he liked, and he realized that they're like fairly bigoted with a lot of things they were doing. And so I think he does a really good job of representing women especially, but I think the idea is, all cultures and all groups here are kind of being shown that like everyone has a story, everyone has the ability, I guess, to ascend. Maybe I kind of threw that together, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I think Edith became really cool at the end. I thought she was pretty cool at the beginning, especially when they were running around the parlor and her crazy husband actor was like yelling her actress's name, and she's like, no, my name is Edith, like get it straight. And then
What
And
was
then
up
she
with
just-
that dude? Why did he want to kill them so bad? That was like maybe a little too over the top even.
He just got too into his role, I guess. And the tower gets to everyone in different ways.
Well, we talked about this on our book club, and each tower of in my opinion, my reading of it, interpretation of it, is that each tower, each ring of the tower, each ringdom, right, represents a different vice that we have as society. And I took the parlor to be the influence of media on us. And if we just like are only consumers of media, then we start to see our life like that. And obviously, like I'm not agreeing with what I'm saying right now, but like a lot of people really believe that violent video games like make you a violent person, or that watching violent shows leads to violence, right? And I would say, I think most studies that have looked into that kind of disagree with that. But I think that that's the commentary, at least, is that if we get hyper focused on media and entertainment, and especially violent media and entertainment, then that can lead like our society down a really dark path. That was my kind of interpretation of that whole setting.
So people are just like so desperate for success that they will totally sell out for popularity, and
or
like Phantology sells out for views.
Yeah, or even you just become so consumed with this, what you see as what a character would do in whatever you're playing. Like, say you're playing as Master Chief from Halo, that, okay, well, if Master Chief can go on a murderous rampage, then why can't I? You know what I mean?
Killing spree.
Yeah. I mean, if it's flood, okay. If it's, people, then maybe not. But anyway, that's
maybe not.
That was my kind of meta interpretation, of, I think you can go do that for each different ringdom that is Fizz did. Draw some pretty clear commentary on.
I think one of my favorite parts was at the end of the parlor when the clerk guy, don't remember his name offhand, that was like helping with their case, says to Senlin, like, hey, or Senlin says something to him, and it's revealed that he was just playing his role the whole time. And Senlin says like, oh, I had no idea you were an actor. And he's like, oh my gosh, that's the greatest compliment ever. Like, I can't believe like I've achieved this. And that was really chilling, but also really, really cool.
You wonder how long those people have been in there, right? Like, were they raised there?
Yeah.
Is that their entire life?
Yeah.
Are those nurses really qualified to be nurses if they're just actresses?
I don't think so, as evidenced by Edith losing her arm.
Yeah, that's true. She got gangrene.
She did not get very good care.
Hey, but she got a magic clockwork arm. So, I mean, if I'm going to lose an arm, if I get it replaced with a magical, super powerful arm, like, it's not that. I mean, obviously, I'd probably rather have my real arm, but still.
I mean, I think that arm is going to come into play in the next book, being titled The Arm of the Sphinx.
It's called The Arm of the Sphinx. And at the end, she said something to the Red Hand, like, something about like, tell me what the Sphinx said. I'm going to have to go back and read exactly what that was. I think that
the Red Hand says like, sister, what would the Sphinx say, or something like that.
I think it is implied that the Sphinx has her arm, and that her arm is the arm of the Sphinx. That's my.
I thought her arm. Well, I think she traded an arm to get her current arm, but I think
her arm just cut off.
I think it is implied that she like gave it.
I think she said like he's at some point he's like, what did you have to trade to get that? And she's like, an arm.
An arm. Yep. Anyway.
Okay. I might have missed that. I think it's interesting that a character, like you said, Josh, that was so open to Senlin, and they had this like pretty deep relationship in a short amount of time in this really stressful situation. She comes back and they still have a relationship. They're willing to work together, but now enough stuff has happened to her where she has secrets and she's not nearly as forward and open with him. I think this makes for a very interesting relationship going forward.
And same with him. He has secrets.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Like, is he just going to show her? I don't think at the end of the book, does she know that he has the painting?
The painting? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. So, secrets.
What do you guys think about the painting? What's the deal there?
I really think it's a cool what's the word for that? MacGuffin. I think it's a cool MacGuffin.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you mean by that?
MacGuffin is like a thing that is being chased that is like propelling the plot onward, and we don't really know what it is or.
Did
why
you see
it's
the Artemis
powerful.
Fowl movie, Ryan?
No.
In the Artemis Fowl movie, they're like trying to get this like codex thing the whole time, and it turns out like it doesn't matter at all. It's just like a total plot device the entire time.
Okay.
Like the briefcase and Pulp Fiction?
Yeah,
that
that's
they're
another good
chasing,
example.
that they're chasing, and they don't.
Although I
really-
haven't seen it.
I haven't seen Pulp Fiction either, but I get the point.
Yeah,
Oh, a good example would be like what are they trying to get in? Dang, this would be a spoiler for the second book of First Law.
yes.
Should I say that?
It's a very common trope in fantasy, and
There is a
stories.
MacGuffin in the second book of First Law.
Yeah.
Kill me. That's not a spoiler, in my opinion.
All right. I thought that the painting was a cool MacGuffin because it is hinted that it's very powerful and that a lot of people want it, and that it's more than just a painting, but we don't know what it is or what the secret of it is.
Yeah, and I can't think of what it could.
I think it's like a portal. That's my theory.
You think it's magical in some way?
Yeah, I think you can like go through the
into this land of where this girl, what, she's like a girl with a paper boat on the water or something like that.
something. Yeah, and
it's very interesting, especially later on where you learn that Ogier isn't the actual artist.
Yeah. Well, you're told that at least by the Commodore guy, whatever his real title is.
Commissioner Pound.
I thought of him as the Commodore from Pirates of the Caribbean for some reason. He does a good character with his gas mask on the whole time. Another one that I was able to visualize really well. But maybe there's like some secret painted into it, or there's some code. Like you flip over the Declaration of Independence, and then on the back with heat and a lemon juice, you're able to find the next
clue. Yeah.
And that will lead to another clue, and that will lead to another. Sorry, I like that.
that leads to the top of the tower.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was well done. And then I liked Ogier as a character. I like that he wasn't really an ally of Senlin's in a lot of ways. He was pretty self-serving, and pretty messed up. But it showed that Senlin, was going to do what it took to.
What was really his motivation, though? If he was trying to get the painting the whole time, then he gives Senlin the painting, but we're told he dies. I don't think any of us, do you guys think he really died? I don't think he really died.
He said he had protection that Senlin didn't know about. So,
but was he just saying that because he knew that Senlin was the type of person who wouldn't have left him?
I think two things. I think one, he really did kind of love / have an infatuation with Maria. And two, I think that he didn't necessarily want the painting for himself, but he didn't want what's his face to have the painting.
Pound,
because,
I think. Commodore Pound.
Yeah.
Commissioner. I know it's commissioner.
Yeah, he didn't want him to have the painting. So I think he thought as long as it was out of his hands, then it was in a better place. And he knew that he wouldn't be able to keep it safe if he kept it because they would come after him.
I'm going on record here. Fantology guarantee he is not dead. He's coming back in the next books. There's no way. Yeah. Come on. How many fantasy books have we read at this point? Guy dies off screen, and we're told he dies off screen. He's not really dead. He's coming back. Spoiler.
Did you guys get the sense of that famous Star Wars quote from, I think is it the Phantom Menace? Yeah, it's the Phantom Menace, because Qui-Gon Jinn says to Obi-Wan, there's always a bigger fish.
Yes.
I feel like each time you get to a ringdom, it's like, well, there's a bigger fish. There's there's you think that whoever's on top in the bats, like Commissioner Pound, and then you get up to the next area and you're like, well, no, it's not Commissioner Pound. He's just he's the servant of somebody greater.
Mm-hmm.
Right
now we're supposed to think that the Pells and these noble families that are higher up are the real big fish, but there's probably more.
And we're only on level 4?
Yeah.
There are potentially how many
The
did
boudoir, I think, is level 4. They didn't really say if there was anything between the baths and the boudoir.
no, but I mean just in general, how many levels? Like there's between 30 and 50 or
Yeah,
something.
Senlin found that like metal rod thing
Mm-hmm.
that had a bunch of things scratched in it, and yeah, we think there's like 30 or 40. Yeah, that was my
So they're only like
impression.
1/10 of the way up, and they're already dealing with like pretty
Yeah,
ruthless and
yeah.
powerful people.
They have an
Um,
airship now that they can just go right up to the top, right?
I
Yeah, probably not.
I'd imagine that that's not really how it works,
Yeah.
but because airships weren't that uncommon, right?
Well, they like circle around the tower, and there's this whole discussion of like they have to find the currents, and right now they're really low on supplies, so I'm guessing they're gonna make it up to like the next area. Then I don't think the ship is gonna be like always in their inventory per se. Like they're probably gonna lose that thing and get
Well,
stranded again.
didn't they ask that question at the beginning where it was like,
Yeah,
why don't you just take an airship and fly it up to the top of the tower? And it's like, well, you don't know what's up there, like how it'll be received. Like, what if you land someplace and you're an enemy or whatever?
yeah.
You're not welcome there. So
There's
Uh,
probably patrol going up, like airship patrols going up closer to the
Yeah.
top of the tower. Yeah. All right.
What
What
are
did
the
you
characters? Or sorry, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I think I'm just kind of moving up to the next level in my mind. What did you guys think of um his Adam, that's his name, and his sister
Yeah, Adam and
Valletta.
Voletta.
Valletta?
Adam Thorius, is that his name? Last
I
name?
think
Yeah,
it's like
Adam.
Adamos or something.
Okay.
That's his full name, but
I didn't love him. I you always got I mean, it was pretty apparent that he was the one betraying him. I thought like that was not
Mhm.
shocking at all to me. That was kind of obvious, I think.
it was a surprise to me the first time he betrayed him, not the second time. And now you're just wondering, well, we know that he has his own best interest at heart, and Senlin knows that now too. So is he going to betray Senlin once again? And Senlin's just gonna be
That's what
like, well,
Senlin realizes, though, at the end, the epilogue where he's like reflecting on how things are going is like, I know I have Adam working for me now, but as soon as things go south, he would like betray the world to save his sister, I think is what he
Mhm.
says.
yeah. So he's kind of an interesting, like he's sort of tragic, right? Where he's a very smart person, but he's given into the tower, right? And that's the thing that makes Senlin so strong, is the fact that he's not willing to give into the tower when Fingal is like, don't trust anyone, like don't tell people that you're going to rescue or that you're trying to find your sister. But if he had listened to Fingal, he would have been stuck in the baths. He wouldn't
Yeah.
have trusted Taru or Ogier, and by trusting those people, confiding in them, he like brought out the best in them, and that's what he's trying to do with Adam. And he hasn't done it yet.
And with Irene, or is that how you say her name? The Amazon.
Yeah.
I feel like he's halfway there with her,
But
She's
he's trying the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Fingal? What did you think of his character?
He's cool. I like this character.
He reminds me of Johnny Dresden Files.
Marcone.
Marcone. I was thinking
Yeah.
I was thinking sorry with Steve. Yeah, Marcone.
He's kind of like your mafia boss type guy,
Yeah.
where he takes you into his house with his family that looks
Yeah.
all nice, and he's like, I'm gonna, break your neck unless you do what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you stole from me by paying those people.
Uh-huh.
So it's and Fingal, he's interesting because he has his family, and those are his interests, and they don't extend beyond it. It's only his and his family's self-interest, which I think is reasonable. But once again,
it's a very mafia type mindset, right? Like,
yeah, I guess that's true. Very mafia-esque.
I think it was kind of disappointing that he didn't realize, like, hey, Senlin is paying these guys more, but like, does he not understand basic economics? Like,
that's not.
he is getting more money,
Well, we don't really know all of his motivations because yes, he's getting more money, but is his only motivation to get more money, or is it to keep his workers in check so that
Yeah,
they're
so
just
maybe he's
obedient?
losing some power there.
Yeah, if he's losing power to Senlin because people are liking him more because he's paying more, then he probably sees that as a threat to his dominance.
I buy that. Yep.
And he
Yeah.
probably thinks, okay, well, if these people are getting more money, then they might just go and cause me more issues. So
Yeah, he's an interesting villain.
yeah, all the mid-tier bosses are really well done. Like
It did feel kind of like progressionist fantasy for a while, which is like a very sub genre where you like go up a level and you get more power and abilities and you're like, okay, now I'm ready to take on the next boss. It felt like that like through the first half. And then the second half, I thought was where the plot really picked up for me. It was like, okay, like I can kind of see what this is now. We're not leveling up every chapter.
What I was kind of hoping was going to happen was that Senlin was going to have some big confrontation with Fingal, and he was going to outmaneuver him and then take Fingal's position as like, the head of this, like controlling this port. And he was going to start like his own little piece of the tower and try and change things from there.
I think that could still happen like that storyline could still happen.
Yeah.
At another place in the tower.
But I guess it's hard to do that with ascending the tower. You can't really become stationary for too long.
Well, if you need to really power up,
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess my expectation for the rest of the series is he continues to climb to the tower, more and more of the inner workings and things at play here. We meet the bigger fishes over and over. I guess he gets to the top eventually, and then like stuff goes down. And I think Maria is also gonna have like her separate plot where like in parallel she is ascending the tower and like working people, and then finally they meet up and like do something together.
But are they going to be on opposite sides of this conflict?
That could be good. Yeah.
And are they going to have?
I hope that happens. Actually, that's good.
Are they going to have grown apart to the point where you have this goal in mind, and then you finally achieve it, and you realize that it's not what you thought it would be?
And he kind of realizes like he now is in love with this like idea of her, and he's like losing who she really was as a person, and he's just trying to save her for almost like sake of saving his wife.
And I mean, Maria's she told Ogier that this whole thing she was doing was to save herself and save her husband, right? Do you guys remember that? And so you're like, what exactly like does she mean? Is she trying to save them from like the boredom of like a normal life, like monotony?
Wait, here's an idea. You remember the guy that let Senlin escape when he was robbing when he was getting the painting?
Oh yeah, the soldier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What if he was working for Maria? Like he had, she had kind of given him instructions to save Senlin or something.
It seems like a little bit of a stretch.
Is she in she's in position to do something like that?
Well, because she's up with the Pell. Is that their name? Pels?
But she's not really doing like, I feel like she's more like a trophy wife.
Well, we don't know. Like maybe she has more of a position.
But it was like a month after she left, right? Or she left, or she was kidnapped like right before Senlin showed up at the baths.
Yeah, it wasn't too far before.
And so that would be a lot for her to like establish herself in the Pels. I mean, stranger things have happened.
I really hope we get her story.
I kind of hope that some of the fortunate things that have happened for Senlin have been because Maria paved the way / have been influencing those things to happen. And I also hope that they're on opposite sides of this conflict that is brewing underneath the surface of the tower. Those are my like two kind of hopes for the series.
Okay. All right, let's do our worst of the best segment. So this is we haven't done this for a while. Actually, we haven't had a book that we reviewed where we did this, but the idea of the segment is we liked the book. There were a lot of good things, but maybe there were some things that could have been a little bit better. So now we're going to talk about those things. So what were the worst parts of the best parts for you guys?
I have one if you guys want me to go.
Okay, Josh.
I think that the final battle over the airship was a good worst of the best moment. It was cool. Like, it was pretty cinematic. You know, you have the airship kind of on the dock. You have this thing, like, you don't know if it's going to be a bomb that explodes, the box that they think the painting is in. You have all the different competing interests at play. But in terms of just the action, I got a little bit lost. And maybe it's because I was very spoiled having read Wisdom of Crowds right before I read this, where Joe
It's
Abercrombie,
a very different style
just,
of action.
Yeah,
yes.
it's very you can picture kind of everything that happens with the action in Joe Abercrombie books. And there's
Abercrombie, it's like no extraneous information. You're right there with the person as they are grunting and throwing their swords around and stuff. This is much more like flowery description of how it's happening.
Yeah. So I don't know if it wasn't enough stakes or if I thought that, you know, that people were actually going to die or not, but there's something missing out of that scene to make it as good of a scene as I think it could have been, because there was a kind of cinematic quality to it. I think if there was ever an adaptation to it, it would be a cool finale to a movie or episode or however it's adapted. But the way it was written, I found a little bit lacking. So
I think that's fair.
Mine is similar, very similar to Josh's, and it's the Red Hat, aka Bane, this villain who
was it the Red Hat or Red Hand?
Red Hand.
Red Hand.
Okay.
Yeah, Red Hat. He's the Red Hand.
Slightly less intimidating.
I mean, he's introduced in a very terrifying fashion with you know, getting this power up and literally tearing the head off of that poor kid. And so you know that he's going to be a bad guy who Senlin's going to have to encounter at some point. He almost kills Senlin, and then he has this epic showdown with Irene, where Irene has this like helicopter basically chain that she's launching at people, and he gets the best of her, and then Senlin he's fighting with Commissioner Pound, and then when he finally, that fight breaks off, he turns, and Edith is basically won this fight and is holding the Red Hand like by his neck over this edge. You don't like, I feel like the Red Hand was this, you know, pretty epic villain who is very capable. We learn that he's not even really human, or at least he isn't anymore. And then there's like the climax is cut out, right? And Edith has just beaten him by who knows how.
He was drugged, although it said that like most of the drug was kicked out of him.
And then I thought was like, she might not have even dropped him, but her juice ran out of her arm.
Yeah.
That was pretty intense.
Was that implied?
Yeah, it was pretty explicitly stated. She said sometimes this runs out at the worst times, but sometimes it runs out at the best time. And so like she was, when she was like refilling it with the red juice. So while she was holding him over the edge, it drained out and she let go.
But if it lets off at the best times, like she's saying that's good that we dropped him.
Yeah, I don't think she regretted dropping him, but I don't think she would have. Like, I don't think she
was thinking
the decision was made for her.
Yeah,
she was thinking about the consequences.
Because
it seems like by killing him, she's crossing the Sphinx. At least that's how I interpret it.
That's what I got from it too, Ryan.
I also don't think he's dead.
Dude, come on, that tower is no joke, man.
Well, he's gonna be caught in the airship. He's not dead.
He's dead.
No, he's coming back. Is the Commodore dead? He's not dead either. Didn't he fall? Didn't he fall back into the?
He fell into the ship.
Yeah, he's still around.
I think the Red Hand is dead.
I think the Red Hand is gone.
I don't think.
He's around. He'll be back.
Okay.
All right. There's another Fantology guarantee.
Go on,
Steven.
Edith fell off. She wasn't dead.
Well, yeah. That's okay. We'll see.
He already climbed up the tower on this like skinny little line that
Silk line.
Adam left for him. He's
Adam,
not
Adam.
dead. All right, that's actually my worst, the best, the second betrayal from Adam. I thought it was really good in establishing his character further. Like, we definitely cannot trust this guy, and I think it's interesting that going forward, this is a character that's working for Senlin as long as things with his sister work out, and that's really his loyalty. But I didn't care that he betrayed Senlin, so to speak, because it meant nothing for, like, there were all of these stakes, like Josh said at the climax. It was really interesting. And then there's this like one loose thread of like who was the traitor, what does this mean? And we thought it was the other guy, the
Rodion.
Yeah, right. We thought it was him, and then it wasn't. And then like a couple pages later, it's like, it's Adam. Oh, but also like we're just gonna forgive Adam, and like it's fine. And I get that it was good for establishing his character, but at the same time, I thought it was like maybe a little forced in there.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
All right. So now that we said bad things, just to reiterate, we love the book. We're looking forward to the next one. We just kind of do that, to have fun, I guess.
I think this was one of the highest highest scores. I can't remember 8, and 8.5. Maybe like Rhythm of War got that.
I think Rhythm of War might have got some 9s. I think Wisdom of Crowds got some 9s. I mean, but we're talking about like our top 3 favorite fantasy authors
of the last 5 years too.
Yeah,
like these are the best. Yeah. Anyway, highly recommend if you made it through and listened to all these spoilers and haven't read the book, I'd still go back and read the book. It's still going to be entertaining, even having all these spoilers for you.
I really hope you didn't, because that would be sad.
Yeah, true.
But if you've only read the first book and you want to read along with us, and you're current, this is October, then hop on our Discord and we'll be going through the second book, either through book club or we'll just have a channel where we chat about it as we go through. And what else? I guess sub and comment, and we'll get you into the competition. Best of luck. May the odds be in your favor. May you not be thrown off the tower and die or not die, in my opinion. And what else? What other advice
like
do we have?
The safest place you can be in Steven's mind is like in the air falling from the tower.
Yeah.
Like if that's the case, you are safe.
No, the safest place to be in any fantasy book is dying off screen, because you're fine. You're
fine until you come back.
Yes. When you come back, you may have, maybe you're coming back for like a glorious final exit. But if you are currently dead off screen, you're fine. You're coming back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Steven, if I ever write a book just to troll you, I'm going to kill a character off screen and then just never have them come back.
Nice. All right. Thanks for listening. Josh, Ryan, I'm Steven. See you guys later.
Yep.